All right, y'all. So I figured that I would go ahead and come on and put this on camera, I guess. Basically, it's like literally after midnight when I made this video. My husband was craving cupcakes. He had a little sweet tooth. I was going to make him a meal, and he was like, "No, I want cupcakes." So I was like, "Okay, well, now is the perfect time for me to try out my new Holstein cupcake maker." And so in this video, I'm going to give y'all the quick little 1-2 review of this cupcake maker. And y'all, I will say it is a 10 out of 10. Okay, you can get this at Walmart for under $50. It is very quick, very easy, and low-key fun to use. Basically, you just plug it in and it begins to preheat, and it's preheated within 5 minutes. You make sure that you oil down each compartment, whether that's with some vegetable oil or some Pam spray. If you use vegetable oil, just use a paper towel to kind of like wipe it all down and get everything thoroughly coated. Just be careful, don't burn yourself, of course. And then as you see here, I'm just making my batter. One thing I will say is make sure that your batter is not too thick because it will hollow out your cupcakes. You guys, I learned from my mistakes. I what am I trying to say here? I'm recording this voiceover at like 4 o'clock in the morning, y'all, so bear with me. But it's grocery time for my household, and so I used what I had on hand, which was a small amount of buttercream, buttermilk, um, and it just wasn't enough to make my batter as runny as I needed it to be. And so overall, the cupcakes turned out good. The flavor was good. Everything was good. But because of that issue, there was a little bit of hollowing within the center of the cupcakes. And then you just want to be sure that you're cooking each um, batch for 7 to 10 minutes. I did 7 minutes, and I personally feel like I should have did a little bit longer just because the outside was like perfectly done, but the inside was a little bit undercooked for my liking, but overall it was good. So, to each his own. You're gonna have to play with it a little bit and kind of figure out your preference and all of that. But once you figure that out, again, I would give it a 10 out of 10. You don't need any papers to make the cupcakes, as in like those papers that you would add the batter into. You can use them, but you don't need them. I did not use them. And, I would do it again and see if that makes any difference at all. But, again, you don't necessarily need that. And so also, um, when it comes down to the buttercream, y'all, one thing that I would recommend that you try is, and this might sound crazy, y'all, don't judge me, don't knock it until you try it, but do your regular buttercream recipe, but add, instead of heavy whipping cream, add vanilla coffee creamer, okay? The texture on top of the taste will be sublime, okay? It was just perfection. And I basically just added some orange dye that I had on hand, and I let my husband choose. Basically, I had purple and I had pink, and he chose the orange. And I bought this kit from Walmart. It's for like beginner cake makers, and it comes with everything you need to bake the perfect cake, y'all. It came with like 20 different piping tips, 40 piping bags. It came with a turntable. It came with the spatulas and all the things you need to frost your cake. I mean, when I tell y'all, and it was only $20. I can link it in the description box. I got it at Walmart. I think I said that, but yeah, I got it at Walmart, y'all, and I used that to make these cupcakes. What I will say here, as you're seeing, is make sure that you do not overfill each compartment because, of course, they're going to rise as they cook. So just be mindful of that. There's no fill line on there, so you kind of have to eyeball it for yourself. And as you can see, my batter is a little bit on the thicker side. Again, it didn't make that huge of a difference, but if I wanted to have perfection, that is the adjustment that I would have made. But my husband was happy with them. He ate two of them, so Yeah, I mean, you see at literally 7 minutes later, you have perfectly um, crisp cupcakes, and then they're very easy to remove. The instructions recommend not to use any metal silverware, but to use like a spatula or a wooden spoon, just so that you don't scratch the non-stick, um, you know, surface of the maker. I used a knife, but I was very, very careful, y'all. Don't do what I do, okay? But yeah, so here you see me assembling the buttercream. And y'all, like I said, I was so satisfied with the buttercream. It was top tier, okay? And yeah, make sure that all of the ingredients that you use are at room temperature. Make sure that you are sifting out your powdered sugar, your flour, all of that. You want to make sure that everything combines well when it comes down to your cake mix, but also your buttercream. Of course, nobody likes chunky buttercream, so sift it out. I used 4 cups. You can use about 4 to 5 cups. I would have used 5, but like I said, groceries, scarce commodity around here, so I only had literally 4 cups left, which was perfect. But it was still, perfectly sweet and all that. And to be honest, the coffee creamer really just carried, you know, it did its thing. And so, if you're looking for maybe like a healthier alternative, if you will, it's crazy to say healthier, but you could find like a sugar-free coffee creamer, because obviously it's already so much sugar. So that's always an option too. But yeah, you see me just sifting everything out, taking my time, doing my thing. Like I said, my husband very much so enjoyed them. After a long day of hustling for the family, we're both, he's already in the bed sleeping. My daughter's sleeping. It's 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. I actually already did a voiceover for this video, but for some reason it deleted. And I was just like, ugh, yeah. Anyways, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. I'm just taking my time and adding the powdered sugar in little by little, and then like kind of taking turns adding the creamer in, just to make that perfect texture, make sure everything is nice and mixed together. I'm stopping, I'm scraping the bowl, taking great care and making sure that everything is thoroughly mixed, etc., etc. Now my phone does die here, so I'm not able to show on camera when I add the orange dye and all of that, but you'll just basically see me start piping here in a second. What I will say is, this was my first time using a piping bag, so y'all, it was a little rocky, but you'll see like the last couple got a little bit better. I was also moving pretty fast, because like I said, it was after midnight that I did this, and your girl was already tired, y'all. So I was like, my husband is not going to trip on the aesthetic at this point. It is what it is, as long as it tastes good. So, but you'll see this one here was like the best one. You see that? See that perfection? Period. Yeah, that part. So, but yeah, that blue bag that you see, there's a disposable piping bag inside, and then I don't know what all the technical terms are, but you know, it gave everything it needed to give. So then on the next clip, you'll basically just see hubby loving it, and yeah,